Welcome back to Air Arms Hunting South Africa, where we don't play around in the kiddies pool, we jump straight in the deep end. And we're going to be jumping in the deep end today and discussing barrels. Now, I know I've spoken about barrels before in my Airgun Ballistics 101 series, but we're going to do a few things a little bit different today. I have with me a Borescope, and we're going to be going inside these barrels and looking at the barrel profiles and really taking a close-up view of things like, you know, just the surface finish of different barrels and running through the different manufacturing methods. Like, for example, we've got some cold steel hammer forged barrels here. We've got some cut rifled barrels. We've got some button rifled barrels, and of course the Smooth Twist X barrels, which are a total different kettle of fish. And we're going to just take a close-up look at the surface finish and discuss the pros and cons of different barrel manufacturing methods. Disclaimer, I cannot give away too much information about the Smooth Twist X barrels because obviously I know a lot about how they're made, some of the design elements that have gone into them, because I've worked very closely with FX, so we won't be jumping in the deep end, so to speak, with how they're made and some of the thought processes that went into the Smooth Twist X's, but we will give a brief overview of what makes them special and then just compare all of these close up. Talking about the Borescope, I got an email the other day from this company, Teslong. I think they're out of either China or Taiwan or Hong Kong. The name didn't inspire too much confidence, but they, you know, I get emails all the time from manufacturers of little gadgets and toys like this who say, hey, we want to send you something. And most of them are actually turned down just because even if people say they want to send you something for free, nothing's ever for free. They always expect you to talk about their products, and I don't have time to talk about every product. But I needed a Borescope badly, so I said to them, hey, send one over. If I like it, I will talk about it. If I don't like it, I might just send it back. But this thing arrived and it actually blew me away. The quality is really good. So I'll put a link down below to this, but let's open this up and take a look at it before we put it to good use on these barrels. It comes in a nice little carry case like this. And everything is nicely packaged in here. It comes with the monitor, and the monitor is really nice. It's USB chargeable. It comes with a memory card in here. You can adjust this to photo mode or video mode and change a whole bunch of settings. And essentially what you do is you take your camera unit, which is this long piece over here, which fits into your barrel, and you connect it up over here. And there you go, the camera is connected. Now, this comes with a few different mirrors. There's essentially a mirror at 45 degrees. You can take this mirror off and you can look directly down the barrel, or you can fit these mirrors on and look at your actual rifling from a different angle. We're going to look at both angles today because I think both angles tell different stories. But essentially, there you go. It's on the screen. And as soon as we start inserting this into the barrel, I'll hit record so you can see exactly what I'm seeing. But we're not going to start with the Smooth Twist X barrel because this is so non-traditional. I'm actually going to take my good old Impact M3 away here. And we are going to start with a more traditional barrel that everyone in the airgun world knows, a 12 groove Lothar Walther barrel, the OG of airgun barrels, so to speak. Now, there's a reason why you may have not seen this Huben K1 on my channel a lot. I think this gun had a lot of promise. Unfortunately, it kept giving me a few issues. One of the issues was just reliability. All the airs leaked out. I had a few parts that weren't working too well. The second issue was barrel cleaning. This 12 groove Lothar Walther barrel, it chews up those slugs and pellets, and the barrel gets dirty very quickly. And because there's no way to open the breech up or to decock the gun, cleaning this barrel is near impossible. It's very difficult to do. So what you're going to see here when we insert this Borescope is a barrel that's probably going to be quite dirty. But let's give it a start. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit record on the screen. And let's start off with a a view just down the barrel without the mirror. So we're going to insert this here. We're going through the shroud, so you'll see all those concentric rings there. And in we go to the actual barrel. So there you go, you can see 12 lands and 12 grooves. The lands of a barrel, in case you didn't know, are it's the smaller diameter. It's the part that cuts into the slug or pellet, and the grooves are, obviously it's self-explanatory, the grooves are the deeper part. On a 12 groove Lothar barrel, the pellet or slug is designed to ride on the lands, and the grooves never really touch the pellet or slug. So there can sometimes be a sealing issue. Pellets are kind of made to seal as well as possible. Slugs don't always seal properly in a 12 groove Lothar barrel because the grooves are so deep. But because there's so many lands, the slugs or pellets do ride on the lands very well. So you can see this barrel slightly choked. It's very dirty around the choke. Lots of lead that's been pulled off there. And the further we go back, the cleaner it gets. But as you can see, on the lands themselves, there's quite a bit of lead there. And as we push down, you can see that twist. This is, as far as I know, a 1 in 17.7 something twist, like close to 1 in 18. I'm going to go all the way back, and as you can see, the further back we go, the less fouling there is, but still a little bit of fouling there. And there's some dirty patches. Maybe the barrel's a bit tighter there, I'm not sure, but all the way back, fairly reflective and clean right towards the breech end. And that's the end right over there. So there you go, 12 groove Lothar barrel, and a bit of information about the way Lothar makes barrels. These are button rifle barrels, and essentially what that means is that there's something called a button, which is like a very hard piece of steel that's already cut into the shape of the lands and grooves that they pull through the barrel. So there'll be a hole that's drilled through the barrel initially, that is obviously made to be through the center of the barrel, and then that button is then pulled through again and again until the barrel takes the form of the button. The downside to this is often with Lothar barrels, I know for a fact that the barrels can tend to have holes that are drilled through them that are not perfectly in the center of the barrel. I've seen some of my friends in the Netherlands who've actually cut barrels down the middle, and they've shown me how the hole is not in the center of the barrel. I personally obviously haven't cut up barrels myself, but that's what I'm told. These barrels are very well known for 10-meter shooting, a lot of the close range stuff, 10-meter field target, all of that. They perform very well. However, they're also known for cutting deep into the pellets or slugs, and firstly, they foul very quickly because of that, and secondly, if there's a crosswind and that pellet's spinning, you get all these Magnus forces on the pellet or slug that catch that wind and cause what they call aerodynamic jump, where you got a crosswind that causes your pellet or slug to be either pushed up or down because of those Magnus forces. You can watch the rest of my Airgun Ballistics 101 series if you want more info on that, but that's what you need to know. 12 groove Lothar barrels are not good for long range shooting. There's very few 12 groove Lothar barrels that have won, let's say, 100-yard airgun competitions. Those have all been won by much smoother barrel profiles. But let's quickly put this 45-degree mirror on here and take one more look at this 12 groove barrel. All the way in. Okay. Not perfectly in focus, but there you go, that's the crown there. And as we move in, Lothar barrels, one thing I'll say about them is the surface finish is normally quite good. They're normally quite smooth. That is not their weakness. That's one of their strengths. They do a very good job with their surface finish, but as you can see, those lands and grooves are so well pronounced, they're so sharp, and that's essentially what pulls all that lead off. It's like taking a knife and cutting into a pellet. So there you go. I'm not going to go all the way to the back, you get the idea, and that's our 12 groove barrel. Let's move on to a different brand of barrel. That's also traditional rifling, but is done in a different way. So we're going to put the Huben K1 aside, and we are going to move on to this barrel that comes off my PTE 220, which is that extremely powerful 22 caliber air rifle. I've done quite a few hunting videos with it. Even out of this little barrel here, we're getting about 90 foot-pounds of energy from a 41 grain slug. But what makes this different from the Lothar Walther is that this is a cut rifle barrel. So Lothar Walther barrel, you've got that hole that's drilled through, and then you've got a button, which is like a little mandrel that gets pulled through, which then cuts those lands and grooves in. This one, you actually have a machine, a CNC machine that comes in and cuts and pulls through and actually cuts those lands and grooves little bits at a time. So it's not a button that's pulled through, it's an actual tool that goes in and pulls through. I might be able to pull some clips from the Krieger factory, but this is a Krieger barrel, one of the best manufacturers in the world, and I think when we put the borescope through here, you're going to see that quality. Let's start with the 45-degree mirror, just because we have it here, and we're going to start at the breech end. And there you can see, I mean, this barrel's been used quite a bit, and as you can see, it's really in immaculate condition. It's very, very good. Once again though, you'll see that the rifling is very square, and that is again going to cause that pellet or slug to catch the crosswinds quite easily. So maybe not the best thing for long range shooting, but I can tell you that this barrel is very good and it shoots very, very tight groups. It's extremely well made. If you look closely as well, you can see little, obviously that cutting tool has to come through the barrel like this. And every time it comes through, it's making tiny little imperfections. So this barrel will foul up a bit, but probably not as bad as the 12 groove, because this one, I think it only has 6 lands and grooves, whereas the Lothar Walther has 12. I'm going to take this 45-degree mirror off, and let's go through this barrel one more time. So as you can see those little stripes down the barrel where the tools have been cutting. You could lap this barrel to make it a little bit smoother, but you're still going to have those sharp edges on the rifling, and that's going to cause some lead to be pulled off. But there you go. 6 groove barrel, cut rifle barrel, and I'll leave the comparisons up to you. Now, before we move on to the next barrel, let me mention that these manufacturers, they do make rifling that is capable of negating some of the effects of these sharp lands and grooves. So for example, barrel manufacturers like this that are known well in the firearms world, Krieger, Bartlein, they call it ratchet rifling, or like 5R rifling, which has one side square, and then you've got the land over here and the other side at an angle. And essentially what this does is whichever direction the bullet is spinning, there's a smooth edge, and that doesn't catch the crosswinds as easily. Still not quite as good as the Smooth Twist X that you're going to see, but it works. Then of course you get like Lothar Walther polygonal barreling, rifling, which I don't have here, which is similar to the Smooth Twist X in that it's actually rounded. You don't have that square edge. The issue with that is the polygonal rifling, although it works very well, is very, very sensitive to what projectile you shoot through. So for example, 22 caliber Lothar Walther polygonal barrels are known to shoot 25.4 grain JSB monsters very well, but they don't like anything else. They're just not very forgiving. FX has found a way to make their barrels very forgiving, but I can't give that secret away. Unfortunately, that is the reason why the FX barrels are so much more forgiving than the polygonal barrels. I can't give that away, but it's something we figured out along the way. But let's move on to one more traditional barrel before we get onto the Smooth Twist X barrels. I'm going to pick up a gun here that you may not be expecting. I know we're on the topic of air guns, but the whole point of this exercise is to show you what a firearm barrel looks like after you've burnt powder in it and shot lots of copper jacketed bullets. So this is my 22-50. It's a barrel made by Tikka, and this is a cold steel hammer forged barrel. Essentially how these barrels are made is they have a long mandrel that takes the shape of the entire barrel, and the mandrel is inserted into the barrel, and you've got these heavy hammers that basically beat the barrel around that mandrel into the shape of the rifling. So the mandrel has the inverse shape of the rifling on it, and when those hammers strike the barrel, they force the steel into the shape of the rifling around that mandrel. Some positives and negatives to this. Hammer forged barrels, and Tikka's not the only one that does it. Steyr, I think, did the first hammer forged barrels. CZ, I think, do hammer forged barrels. I can't remember exactly. BSA do hammer forged barrels. And the downside is because these barrels have tension in the steel after they are basically beaten into submission, they can have point of impact shifts when they heat up or cool down. So this rifle, for example, if I shoot a lot and the barrel heats up, the barrel can flex because of all that tension that sits in the steel. Whereas a cut rifle barrel, the steel is not being beaten up, it's just having little bits taken off of it, so you don't have those same issues. That's what makes these barrels maybe not as desired as the cut rifle barrels like the Krieger, and slightly less expensive also. When mass produced, the hammer forged barrels can be made much quicker and much cheaper than the cut rifle barrels. But anyway, Tikka barrel, let's go through and let's take a look at what we see. I'm going to thread this through the silencer here. Again, you're going to see all those baffles. Ugh, these are tight baffles, that's why the silencer works so well. And straight away, you're going to see some blue. And you know what that blue is? That blue is copper that's been pulled off the bullet. So, fairly dirty barrel. It's hard to even see from this angle how many lands and grooves this barrel has. I think it is 6 as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, there's a lot of copper there. You can see that copper. But interesting enough, this barrel shoots very well fouled up. I have a policy of only cleaning my barrels when they stop shooting well, and this barrel happens to shoot well no matter how dirty it is. So I don't think you need to clean your barrels when they're dirty. You only need to clean them when they no longer shoot well. We're going closer to the chamber end of the barrel, and there you can see the rifling much clearer now. So we've got 6 lands and grooves. As you can see, the lands are much narrower and the grooves are much wider, and that bullet obviously rides on the lands. But again, similar to the Krieger barrel. So this is a 1 in 14 twist. You can see that twist as you push it down, and it won't have those marks from the CNC tool cutting in, because it's not a button rifle barrel, not a cut rifle barrel. It's a hammer forged barrel. So on that mandrel, that hammer is forcing the steel straight down. You're not going to see those scratch marks. And there we are. So that's the throat of the barrel right over here. You can see the rifling basically disappears. That's where the bullet sits before it gets jammed into the rifling. And the throat is the part that gets burned very easily. And there is the chamber. The chamber is a little bit dirty. I'll have to clean that out with a chamber mop. But as long as your cartridge isn't sticking to your chamber, then it's probably okay. And then you see a nice red 50 grain Hornady VMAX there. But there you go. We're going to take this out. Thread this back in. Okay, there we are in the barrel. Now this is obviously an unchoked barrel, being in a firearm, so you won't see that extra fouling right at the end of the barrel, as you would in a lot of the airgun barrels. But as you can see, this rifling is very smooth, and as I said, part of it is due to the hammer forging process, but part of it is that there's over 1,000 shots through this barrel already. So all that bullet moving through at such high speeds will have smoothed out any imperfections already. This barrel seems to have gotten better the more I shoot with it, but there you go. You can see all that copper just sitting there, and it seems to be in certain parts of the barrel. So maybe certain areas of the barrel where the steel is a bit rougher or the diameter is a bit off or something like that. That can happen with mass-produced barrels. And we're going to move all the way back. As you can see, it gets a little bit better further back, but still pretty dirty. And then we're going to go all the way to the... Oh, a lot of copper there. All the way back. So there's the throat, and this throat, you see those minor cracks in the throat. Those cracks are basically just from the extreme temperatures of that powder burning right there at the chamber, and that the neck of the chamber basically forces those gases into the throat and just nukes it, and that's what happens. That's why a barrel gets shot out. It's not necessarily the rifling that's being eroded, it's actually the throat of the barrel that just gets roasted. So that throat's looking, it could be better, but it's also, the rifle's still shooting well. And here we go into the chamber. So there you have it. Now we move on to what I think is the most interesting barrel, just because it's so non-traditional, and that is the Smooth Twist X barrel. So let's put this aside. So this is my old faithful Smooth Twist X 700mm barrel. I've had Hein Frohman, who's now working full-time for FX, fit this barrel stiffening / barrel tensioning system. Essentially, you've got that rear block on that gets bolted into the impact with two nuts on the side which tighten onto the barrel housing. Then you've got a thick carbon fiber sleeve, and you've got a nut at the end which presses against this carbon fiber sleeve and pulls the whole barrel tight inside here, making it very, very rigid. This is way more rigid than a standard 700mm barrel. And just to clarify, I don't clean this barrel, so it's going to be quite interesting to see what this barrel looks like. But my experience with Smooth Twist X barrels is the more you shoot them, the better they start to shoot, and I think that's probably due to just that slug cleaning out all the imperfections and eventually making the barrel really smooth. But let's put this borescope in here. I'm going to tighten this down quickly, and let's see how this looks. So there you go, that's the transfer port there. This is the lead-in, or the chamber, if you want to call it that. And it almost looks like there's no rifling, but there is rifling. I push it through here, and you're not going to see any rifling. That's what makes this barrel so interesting. You can see it's pretty smooth in there. I'm surprised about that, because I don't clean this barrel at all. But very, very smooth. And there might be some fouling when we get to the choke, but let's see. You can see almost like ghosts of rifling, but there is no pronounced rifling. And I think, oh, there you go. That was the choke. So you can't really see much of a difference. It looks slightly different, but that's it. And there's you can see I've used this barrel a lot. It's quite dirty there, but the inside of the barrel, no dirt in there. Smooth Twist X barrels are very tight, so the slug is engaging on all sides, and the slug and pellet, when you shoot, each shot cleans the barrel out, whereas a lot of these other barrels, the grooves can be so deep that the slug or pellet is never actually touching the grooves, and so the only thing cleaning out lead is actually the air, not the projectile itself. Okay, so let's take this mirror off and take one more look at the Smooth Twist X barrel. Once again, you can see the brass section with the transfer port there, big old transfer port. And here's the chamber where the rifling starts. And as you move through, you can see that there are slight signs of rifling. Little bit of fouling in there, but really not much to speak of. But you can see 5 lands. but very, very smooth. And you'll see that there are no tooling marks in here. There's none of that you see in this Krieger barrel, where you can see those lines kind of going with the twist of the rifling. That's because no tooling ever touches the inside of a Smooth Twist X barrel. The tubes come from Germany with a mirror finish on the inside, 100% round, 100% smooth. They are then fed through a CNC machine, which cuts them to length and crowns them. So 500 millimeter, 700 millimeter, whatever. And then they are fed through another machine which presses the rifling in from the outside. So no tooling ever touches the inside. There can be microscopic cracks in the steel from basically the barrel machine presses down, the rifling is formed like this, so very round and smooth, but that can cause on the inside of the barrel a little bit of microscopic cracks to form from the steel being bent. But those cracks are found after maybe 100 to 200 shots. Those cracks start to disappear as you shoot more and more. They're very, very small. You can't even see them with a borescope. And the more you shoot, the smoother the barrel gets and the better it performs. And I've never had to clean this barrel. I'm actually surprised it's so clean. But basically, the more you shoot, there's a bit of dust in there. The more you shoot with this barrel, the better it gets. So we're moving towards the choke. And normally there's a bit of filing at the choke. You can see a little dust there, but no filing. I haven't used this barrel in a while. And there you go. But one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get out a barrel that hasn't been shot as much. This one's got probably 10, 20,000 shots through it, a lot of shots, so it's super smooth. But I'm going to get out my Impact M3, which has a prototype 800 millimeter barrel on it. I think this is a 1 in 14 twist 800 millimeter, which I've been testing for very heavy slugs. Some interesting stuff coming. Also got a Hein Frohman barrel stiffening kit, so it's extremely, extremely rigid. But this barrel is probably only got a couple hundred shots through it, so it's much newer. So we're going to put the borescope through here as well, and it's going to be very interesting to see whether this barrel is any dirtier or any cleaner than the 700. Through the baffles, it's normal to see dirt. Okay, there you go. So this is a newer barrel. Also hasn't been cleaned, but this one you can immediately see that there is actually a bit of fouling there in the choke, especially. Got a little bit of gray there. That's bits of lead that are stuck in the choke. And as we go in as well, you can see little bits of lead. So I find that extremely interesting to see that the newer barrels, the barrel that's got a few hundred shots through it is actually much dirtier than the barrel that's got 10,000 shots. And that just goes to show these barrels are designed in a way that the more you shoot, the better they get. And each successive shot basically cleans out each previous shot's lead. Very cool. Now, at this point, I know you're going to ask about the, what are they called? The ART barrels from Daystate. I'm not going to talk about those for 3 reasons. First reason, I have not got much experience with an ART barrel, and I don't have one here. Second reason, it can't be compared with this because, yes, it looks very similar in profile, but it's made totally different. It's still made by Lothar Walther, so it's not made in the same process as an FX barrel where there's no tooling touch in the inside. And the third reason is it's very, very clear that Daystate has just tried to copy what FX has done to try and get the same performance. And I don't support companies that copy other companies. Even the Delta Wolf, you can see it's trying to be an Impact. So I don't support that, and that's why you won't see me with the Delta Wolf anytime soon. But there you go, Smooth Twist X barrel, totally different, and I'll let you come to your own conclusions. This is not a review, this is just an interesting look at different barrels from the inside. But I hope you found that interesting. Please do subscribe and hit the notification bell if you haven't already done so. It really helps me because YouTube doesn't recommend my gun videos to audiences that don't like gun stuff, which kills growth of my channel. And yeah, make sure to stay tuned because I've got that Oxwagon Diary series coming very, very soon. We were basically just waiting for a few new products to launch. One of them has launched, which was the 4 to 16 Helix. That's actually launching today on the day I film this, the 10th. And then there's something else coming a bit later. As soon as that's out, we'll get that Oxwagon Diary series up. 5 awesome, insane hunting videos with the M3, monkeys at crazy distances, lots and lots and lots of monkeys. It's mostly monkeys in that series, plus some dassies and ground squirrels and lots of awesome camping and Oxwagon stuff as well. So stay tuned. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.